Hey, we're here with the one and only David Olds and Anthony Gaona.
Hey.
Yeah, he's surprised to be here. I was like, oh,
Well, it was the one and only part that kind of shocked. I was wondering who was popping on with us.
I mean, there's only one David Olds, and there's only one Anthony Gaona.
That's true, but you were leading up with this one and only business, so I'm like, oh wow, who's coming on? Who's going to be here? No, guys, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciate it.
The burden of being Mexican is Daniel Martinez is a very popular name, which is why I put Daniel Esteban Martinez, just because I want people to know who I am. I got to differentiate myself between all the other Mexicans that are Daniel Martinez.
Yeah, mm-hmm. That's important. It's funny. I was watching this movie last night. It was oh my god, what? Anyways, it was this like Mexican cartel movie. But anyways, one of the guys' names was like a prominent real estate guy. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. So, anyways, yeah. So, yeah. Thank goodness there's nobody else with my name. No poor guys stuck with that.
Yeah. You're the one and only.
The one and only, right?
So, we're going to talk about a lot of different things today. First of all, I want to give a brief introduction. I don't think we've ever had this conversation. This is why I like doing this conversation when we come on the podcast. But tell us a little bit about your background, how long you've been in real estate, just the basics that everybody asks, but I've never heard it before. So
really, oh my goodness, yeah. So I'm a full-time investor. We're based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, but we've been investing, my wife and I, for about 20 years. So started all the way back in 2002. Yeah, we've been around for forever. 2002, we got married and we wanted to buy a house. So we're like, okay, well, like that's what people do. And I grew up, my dad was like ex-military guy, was always like fixing the house and doing those times. He was that dad, right? We don't need to hire a contractor. We're going to do the additions ourselves, and you're going to do all the chores and all that stuff. So of course, as a kid, my thing was, when I grew up, I'm going to have a condo and I'm never raking leaves again. And I'm never doing any of these things ever again. I won't make my kids do it. Well, spoiler alert for any of you guys that are in your 20s, you eventually turn into your parents. But anyways, my dad had always, we were doing real estate, not real estate buying, but like within our own, the house and the addition. So I was kind of just exposed to that. So anyway, I get married and we decided to buy this house, and we're in Apopka, Florida. And we were going to the closing, and like, I didn't know anything, right? Like I was, late 20s. I kind of started late. And I asked my realtors, we were coming out of the closing, I'm like, why? I don't understand. Why do we buy it from Wells Fargo? Like, that doesn't make any sense. She's like, oh, dummy. Well, it's a foreclosure. I'm like, oh, like, what does that mean? Because if you don't know, you don't know, right? Like, I mean, I was around drywall and studs and houses, but I didn't know how real estate itself works. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, cool. So I worked for this company called Scotty's Hardware Stores in Florida. There was like 170 of them. Of course, Lowe's and Home Depot put them all out of business. But because I worked there and then later for a lumber distributor, I'm like, oh, well, I can like update my house, because that's what we did as a kid, right? So we took off the little baseboards, put on big baseboards, big moldings, crown, did some like minor stuff. And when it was time to move about 2.5 years later, I'm like, oh, well, let's sell the house. So same realtor, going back to the closing place, and on the way in, she's like, hey, by the way, you don't have to pay money on the 50-something thousand that you're making. I'm like, what? What do you mean? She's like, yeah, homestead exemption. You live there for 2 years. It's tax-free money. I'm like, really? Well, that's cool, right? Like, I didn't know that. I was shocked, because I was expecting to pay like 20 grand on this gain. So I'm like, well, that's awesome. So what we were doing is we were trying to move a little bit closer to where I worked. So we started looking for a new house, and we bought this really ugly house in an amazing neighborhood. It's everything that you want to do if you're an investor and you're trying to do this on purpose and not just kind of bumble your way through it like I was. So it was like this beautiful neighborhood in DeBary, Florida, north of Orlando. It was like the perfect neighborhood, like oak trees, brick houses. And, we bought this kind of house up on a cul-de-sac with a pool, and it needed a complete remodel. So I, went and looked at it. I called my wife. She's like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, really? Like, you're up for this again? Like remodeling a house and living in that disaster? Yeah, let's do it. It'll be great. So we fixed that one and sold it a little over 2 years later, made like $100,000. So now I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And I'm working, a regular, what a W-2 job, W-4 job, whatever it is. And, making pretty good dough. Like I'm making 70, 80 grand, which back in the early 2000s was pretty good. So the next thing I was at the airport waiting on our kids. They were flying in as unaccompanied minors. So I'm in the bookstore. The most cliche thing ever, right? Randomly, I pick up a book and start reading it. Little book, flat. I'm through like 30 pages in like 20 minutes, right? Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I'm like, well, this is a good book. Like I'm going to buy this because it's pretty good. I want to finish reading it. So I buy the book, picked up the kids. Very important, unaccompanied minors. So I go home and I blast through this book. And, what's he say at the end? He's like, oh, if you want to be in real estate, you need to go find a real estate club or group or something like that. And if you want to do oil and, whatever, stocks. But, so I'm real estate. So one thing about me is I'm not super smart, but I'm really good at following directions. Right. So I'm like, okay. So I sit down at my computer, which was like this big boxy monitor, early 2000s. And I log into like web crawler or spider crawler or something, because Google and Facebook aren't even invented. And I type in Orlando or Central Florida, real whatever. I type in something in the search bar. And it comes up with this guy who's selling houses. And like I had read enough now to realize that this guy was a wholesaler, and he had a resources page. His name's Todd Hutchinson. He's in Orlando. You guys should, if you're there, you should reach out to him because he's smart and amazing. But it had this resource, and it said, if you want to learn about real estate, go to the Central Florida Real Estate Investors Group. I'm like, okay, again, I'm good at following directions. I click on the link. Meetings are the first Wednesday of every month at the Bumby Theater downtown. I'll remember that forever. So I'm like, okay. So it was July of, now it's got to be 2005 or 6, something like that. So I drive from DeBerry all the way down to the Bumby Theater, which if you're in Orlando, that's probably like a 45-minute drive. So I tell my wife, I'm like, I'm going down there. I'm going to learn about real estate. She's like, okay, you go, boy. I'm like, all right. So my wife is oddly supportive of all the stupid shit that we decide to do. We were buying oil wells not too long ago. She's like, yeah, just do it. I'm like, don't you want to be on the Zoom to hear? Like, no, I trust you. Okay. So I'm driving down to Orlando, and what I didn't know at the time was CFRI, Central Florida Real Estate Investors, was the third largest RIA in the country. It's a big thing. It's big, right? Think of like a big RIA, and put it on steroids. So I drive into this parking lot, and it's packed, right? Like 400 cars. And every car is like, we buy houses, hard money, appraiser, inspections, soft money, hard money, like all the shit. Like everybody's got car wraps and magnets. And I'm driving through looking for a spot. And like the anxiety is killing me, right? I'm like, I'm like sweating. Like, I'm like, oh my God. So I'm driving through, and I drive right out the backside and go home. And I couldn't do it. I was afraid to go in. It was the craziest thing. I was just afraid. I'm like, I have no business being here. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't go in there. I just can't. I could not park the car and go in the place. And so I get home, and my wife's like, how'd it go? That was quick. I'm like,
didn't go.
Find it. And I can count on one hand where I've not told my wife the truth in 20 years. We're going to be married in a couple months. And I'm like, couldn't find it. Like, I don't know. Try again. I'll try again another month. So I remember I didn't go in August. The reason I remember I went in September is because it was my birthday. So now I'm pissed. Like, I've thought about it for 60 days. I'm like, you're a pussy. You didn't go. What's your problem? You need to get your ass in the car. So I drive down that now, and I'm like white knuckled, and I'm talking to myself, and I'm like, we're going in, we're doing this, we're I'm just psyching myself up for this. So I go and I park, and like, I don't even think about it. I walk up there and I give them my $10 or $20, whatever it was for the to get in as a guest. And I went in, and it's a big deal, right? So in the lobby, you guys have been to this, like there's all those tables, and their company, like Hive Mind is there, like buy our CRM, and and they're giving away pens, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I grab a bag, and I'm collecting like pens and spongy balls and like all the shit, right? I don't know. I'm just trying to look like I belong, like I belong for a guy who's flipped 2 houses for 150 grand, and I still don't feel, I don't know. So I go in. So here's where I'm going with all this. So I go in. I sit way back in the left-hand corner because I don't want anybody to talk to me. And I got my little pen and my notepad, and I sit down. And I'm like, okay. So I'm gonna learn something. So here's an amazing thing that RIA did at the beginning of every meeting. They had what's called Deal of the Month, and they would pre-select 3 or 4 people, and they would get up and they would tell their story. And then everybody, by applause, they clap. Somebody wins like a $50 Home Depot card, $100, whatever it was. I'm like, okay, so cool. So I'm sitting here, and this first guy gets up, and he's like, I want you to picture like the quintessential like old Florida guy, 90 pounds, literally overalls, probably like his dress white polo shirt. Like the only thing missing is like the straw coming out of his mouth, right? Like wrinkled skin, like tan because he's been out in the sun. So this guy gets up there and he walks up and everybody's real quiet. And he's like, I wish I could remember the guy's name, but he's like, hi, my name is Bob. And literally like everybody like an A meeting goes, hey, Bob. I don't know, maybe they knew the guy, right? I was new. So he's like, hey, I was driving to North Carolina to see my kinfolk. And, I got off the exit for some gas, and I drove by this house that had a for sale by owner sign. So I stopped and talked to the guy, and he wanted 80,000, and I offered him, 42, and he said he couldn't take that. So I gave him my card, and I just kept on going to see my kinfolk. And when I was coming home, I was almost home, and he called me and said he'd take my 42,000. So I turned around and went back, and I bought the house, and I hired a guy to paint it and fix it up a little bit, and I just sold it for 120,000. And I'm like, are you shitting me? I'm sitting there looking at it, I'm like, okay. So then everybody claps. So Bob gets off, and this girl, I do remember her name, Olga. This girl gets up there, like beautiful, like 27-year-old girl, right? Russian immigrant. So I'm very intently watching her walk up on stage, and she starts talking like the worst English ever, right? Barely can spit out English words. And she gets up there, and this girl's flipping mobile homes all over Orlando for like $5,000 a piece, 5 or 6 a month. And I'm like, holy smokes. I don't even know what the next 2 people are, because I'm sitting there going, I'm pretty smart. I have a good job. I went to college. If these people can do this,
yep,
100% I can do this. Like 100%. So like that's like we all have those defining moments in our life, like that will continuously, kind of resonate with you and you think about every day. This is that day. Because I'm looking and like again, I'm not the smartest guy, and I'm not trying to be like I'm so smart, but like I'm like, if these 2 people can do it, like this old guy who's 70 or 80, who talks like he's got marbles in his mouth, and good for him for making that dough. Like I'm not downing that at all. But if he can do this, driving through a freaking city that he's never been to and lock something up and make, $60,000 on it or whatever it was. And this girl who can't speak English, who's probably not even a citizen, and she's flipping deals. Well, my God, I can do this. Right? I can do this. And so it started there. It was a great RIA. A lot of like because it was all of Central Florida, like there was a meeting or a class or something like every night. And, I just was like, I'm all in. Like, I'm in. We're doing this. And, by this time we're on our 3rd house, living in it, remodeling it as we live there. And, so, I just spent a bunch of money and went to like every weekend seminar I could and all the meetings. And, I paid some coaches to teach me about subject 2. And like, I'm just learning. I'm just like a sponge for, let's just learn as much as we can. And, so that was our very first deal coming out of that investment deal, was buying a property, subject 2. That was the very first deal. And, remodeled it and sold it, and then just went on to do a bunch of those. And all the meanwhile, we were sort of doing now we call it house hacking. We were moving into a house, fixing it up, because I had a full-time job. My wife had a full-time job. So we were coming home, scraping popcorn, putting in ceramic tile, changing out cabinets, and just kind of over the next couple of years, we were doing that as well. And one of the interesting things is I actually paid a guy. I went to like this week-long boot camp back when they did that to learn wholesaling. And so, because now that's like what I'm known for, is like the wholesale guy, the dispositions guy. And so my wife and I, we went to this whole thing for a week, and he did say, like, you got to, you have all these postcards, because this is back in direct mail day, and you got to put out bandit signs. I'm like, I can do that, right? I can make We Buy Houses signs. And so he says, you got to go up like a main road and put your bandit signs out. Well, it should have been more clear, because what I did was I got my bandit signs. My wife and I went out at like 2 a.m. And I went to think of like every intersection, we put out 8 signs. There was no spot in that intersection where there was not a sign facing you. So we do this up and down 1792 from like DeLand to up, I don't know, Altamont Springs or something. So, we get home, it's like 7 a.m. We're like beat. And what happens at like 8:15? Ring. Hey, this is Sergeant such and such. I'm like, oh my God. He's like, you need to come get these picked up right now. Like, this guy had no tolerance for my bullshit. So there we were, getting up right back down the road, picking up all of these houses, or all the signs. So that was my.
How many did you put out?
Oh, at least 100. At least. Like, so we were, now we're out there picking them up. And let me tell you something. For those of you that haven't done bandit signs, putting them out, it's a lot of work. Like, it's a lot of work. But man, there's nothing worse than having to go pick up the bandit signs that you just spent all night putting out. That's the most demoralizing thing ever.
Yeah, that's why I asked how many. That's like
it was at least 100.
The walk of shame, having to go pick them back up after all that work.
It was terrible. So now I'm afraid to do, of course, bandit signs. So we were doing some marketing, and back then, like, foreclosures were just starting, but nobody knew. Like, and if you guys want to talk about market cycles, we definitely can. But so nobody knew where it was going to go. Like, there were some foreclosures, right? So that's what they're teaching at RIA meetings, like, target foreclosures and do that stuff. So we're doing direct mail, and sometimes like our pre-foreclosure letters getting there before they were served with foreclosure notices, because banks were starting to get backed up. And so anyways, we did a few more deals, and then like the world came to an end. Like, it just stopped. And, people ask me and probably other guys who've been through, a drastic shift, like, how do you know it's coming? And also, anybody who posts right now, like, the market's going to crash in July, is full of shit and has no idea, right? We didn't know the market was shifting. That property I sold that we made $100,000 on was the beginning of the shift. But, like, we didn't know it. Like, we didn't know that was the top for like a year. Like, you're like, it's slowing down a little bit. Maybe it's but you don't know. You don't know until you're way on the other side that was the peak, and that's where it started to drop. So at the time I was working for a lumber supplier, 84 Lumber. And so I'm selling to like builders, right? Like track builders, Pulte Homes, DR Horton, all those people. And I know I'm going long, I'm sorry.
You were selling land
so when you're selling to those
builders?
What's that?
You were selling land to those developers?
No. We were selling,
lumber.
I sold building materials. So I would sell them like doors, windows, garage doors, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So what happens when you sell to track builders like that, track builders, people who do a lot of the same house, like over and over and over, cookie cutter stuff, is, the Magnolia model, right? We have a Magnolia model, and we know exactly what it's going to take, right? So they have standards, right? Standard baseboards, moldings, countertops, floors, whatever. So what we were noticing is, because the market was slowing down for them, like maybe they weren't putting granite in anymore. Now they were shifting it to be laminate, right? So we were seeing small things like that where
we're peeling back a little bit.
They were peeling back a little bit, right? And same thing, my wife, she worked for Ashton Woods Homes, which is a large custom home builder in Florida, nationwide now. And she was in their purchasing department. So she was seeing the same thing. Ooh. But again, like, we're as tapped in as it can be. And we still had no idea that it was going to, just kind of drop off a cliff when it did. So like, we see stuff happening, and I'm like, maybe we want to go someplace where it's easier to do business, right? So we started looking around, and we were going to some seminars and doing some stuff. And this great guy, or this great week-long boot camp in Boston from this guy named Dave Lindahl, who probably wrote one of the greatest books on emerging markets and market cycles. um, it was the end of this week-long thing, and he's literally going through all the markets in the country, and he's like, Chattanooga, Tennessee, very small market, very stable, and like Volkswagen is opening its first U.S. plant there. I'm like, oh, 200,000 people, it's going to bring 20,000 new jobs, 10% job increase. That's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, and we've been looking at other markets, Louisville, Birmingham, Montgomery, Alabama. Like we'd looked at some other stuff. And so we really dialed into Chattanooga and said, okay, we're gonna move to Chattanooga. So we started doing a little bit of marketing, and we bought our first deal subject to actually off of Craigslist, which was crazy. But my brother, who was working with us at the time, he found it on Craigslist, and we just made an offer to take over their mortgage. But so we're going back and forth a little bit, and trying to learn the area. Like he was staying up here, I was in Orlando. He's putting out signs. I'm taking calls. We're trying to hustle some shit up. And I told my job, like, hey, I'm leaving. And they're like, oh, that's okay. Like, we're good because the market's dying, right? Nobody's buying anything.
Yeah.
So we had this one house that we had bought like a year before. It was a probate deal. I bought it. It was like 97 grand. And like the house sat right here. A house 1 block over, 2 blocks down. It just sold for like 214. Right. So I'm like, okay. And again, you don't realize you don't know you're falling off the cliff, right? Until afterwards. So I'm like, okay, great. Like this is good. I said, so I think we bought it like July. And again, we're working on it ourselves, popcorn, countertops, we're doing all the stuff, painting the outside. So I finished in like November, and I called my realtor, new realtor this time. And she's like, yeah, things kind of slow down between the holidays. Why don't we put it on the market in January? I'm like, okay, that's cool. Cause I want to move in February or March, something like we're going to have 60, 70, 80 grand to relocate. It's going to be perfect. So I call her in January, and she says, like, okay, great. I'll be over. So she comes over, she looks around. I show her the house. She's like, you did great. I'm like, I know. She's like, you did a great job. I'm like, yeah, that's what I do. I do a good job. I'm like, what can we sell it for? She's like, well, so this house at the corner sold this one and this one, probably like 145. Like one house over 2 blocks down, 214. Yeah, that was 6 months ago. This was the point where it like hit the wall. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not selling it for that. She's like, well, this one sold for 130, 140, I'm like, so this is the mistake I made, which every new investor makes, right? My house is better than that. My house is remodeled. That's a foreclosure. My house is better. Well, let me just tell you, didn't matter. Did not matter that my house was fully remodeled and looked amazing. The market just stopped. And you know who was buying? Cash buyers. And what was on sale? Everything. Everything was on sale. Except my house. So I'm like, nope. My house is better. And, I put it out at 165. And I thought I was the most magnanimous MFer that's ever walked the earth, going 165. She's like, okay, she's a realtor, right? Puts a sign in the yard, out she goes. So like a month, nothing, like not even a call, dude, because the market keeps going. So after like 4 or 5 weeks, I call her again. I'm like, hey, like I don't want to be a pest, but what's going on? We getting any calls? Nope. I'm like, okay, let's do 145. She's like, yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. I'm like, you just told me 145. She's like, yeah, that was a month ago. Put it out at 145. Let's get this thing done. And the analogy I give people is like, to imagine a fat kid chasing a tennis ball down the hill. That's what it's like when the market shifts. Like you are chasing the market all the way down. And it's you have to make such a drastic price jump to get in front of it. So again, 145, we get a couple calls, but nothing, like not even a showing. So then I'm like, all right, 139. Like, I've got a couple showings, but now like I've told my company, like, hey, I'm leaving in June, right? So you can be prepared. So like we're getting nothing. And finally I'm like, now I'm in like panic mode because like any money that I had, we've spent, right? Because, like anybody else. So now I'm like, holy smokes, like, what are we going to do? Like we're going, right? And it wasn't an option to stay. Like my wife had lost her job. So she's just sitting at home because, builders are laying people off. So, I, again, ton of real estate courses and everything and, sell your house in 7 days and all that crap. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go put out signs. I'm going to lease option this property, right? I'm going to try to get some money down, and then, I'll have them at a high sales price later, and they'll cash me out, whatever. So I was trying for 10, and I ended up at $5,000. So, and I think I was cash flowing like $27 a month, something ridiculous. But I'm like, okay, it's fine. Somebody's in there, and literally got a U-Haul. We packed it up with every single thing we owned. Me, my wife, 2 boys, my 3 fat dogs, and my brother in his truck, and we left it to go to Chattanooga, and did not know one person. I kind of knew a realtor who showed us around a little bit, but we moved 100% for real estate because we believed in the market. We knew the numbers were good, and we were going to come up here and we were going to buy small multifamilies and apartment complexes, and we were going to rule the world. And so we actually drove up, timed it so that we had a closing. We were buying a subject to house that I had seen one time, like 2 months before. And I'm like, yeah, it's going to be great. We're going to move up there. We're going to make $1 million. So we get here, we go to the closing, we get to this house, 6:30, 7 o'clock at night. I back this truck in. It's this old 1900s house on the side of Missionary Ridge, not the good side. And it's summer, it's July 9th, it's hot. My anniversary is on the 7th, my wife's birthday's on the 8th, and on the 9th, we're moving into this house. And so the house had been vacant for probably like 2 years because the guy we bought it from was getting married and he just had moved out. So it's vacant. It's a 1900s house. We get in there. There's no central AC. We flip the power on, which we hadn't done a good job at doing any kind of inspections. Like only half the power is working in the house. No air conditioners. And we didn't bring ACs with us because I had a house in Florida with central AC. I mean, we had just enough energy to like drag the mattresses in and just collapse on the mattresses that night. And I'm going to tell you, man, I've had a couple bad days in my life. This is one of them. I'm laying on this mattress going, holy shit, what have I done? What have I done? I uprooted my kids, my wife, my 3 fat dogs, my brother. Everybody believes in this real estate dream. And we're in this house that's been vacant, old doors. So there's like a crack. There's a mouse running through. There's no power. We're hot. My kids are there, right? Like we left this beautiful house in Central Florida to come here to this 1900s house. The floors are crooked. And I'm going to tell you, man, like I cried myself to sleep that night. Like, I'm like, what did I do? Like, I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. Was this because how do you unwind that, right? I put somebody in my house. I don't have my job anymore. My wife doesn't have hers. Like when you see those memes on Facebook about burning the boats and doing the thing, like this is it. Like there is no option. There was not like, we're going to make this work. We're going to figure it out. We're going to make this work. And so the Chattanooga market at the time, very unsophisticated, right? It's not like San Antonio or Houston or Orlando, right? Where people, investors, and they know what assignments are. This is like a good old boy kind of neighborhood. Like when we're talking to people about, yeah, we're doing assignment of contracts wholesale, they're like, what? What are
you guys doing?
I don't understand what you guys, what are you talking about?
License?
Yeah, can I see your realtor license? And same thing, we're going to title companies and they've never heard of assignments, right? Because nobody had ever done it here. Nobody had ever wholesaled more than like a deal or two, right? Certainly nobody at scale. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. So we figured it out. And again, back then, the way that you marketed, like it was all bootstrap stuff. There was no Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no mass texting, ringless voicemail. You marketed by going out and driving for dollars. You could download a list. You could get List Source, I think, was around back then. You could download a list and mail somebody a postcard. And back then,
there was no way to skip tracing numbers?
No, dude. No, none of that.
Okay.
No,
it's crazy. Yeah.
No.
Mind blown.
no, none of this.
How could you find somebody?
Existed. You sent out postcards, yellow letters. You did driving for dollars, right? And my problem is I was too poor. Again, I tell everybody, you have time or money, right? We had all the time in the world and zero money. So, I mean, we had to just fucking work hard. Because, again, every night when I went home, I had two kids there, 2 teenage boys, a wife, and 3 fat dogs, man. Like, you got to find a way to make it work.
So now, all these complainers that things aren't going good, the market's getting scarce, all this stuff. This is a bunch of BS.
It's man.
You know what my favorite is? My favorite is there's no inventory. I'm like, all right.
Get up in a plane. Go out there and see how much inventory is out there. And listen, we all have that, right? I have that panic in the shower sometimes, like, well, man, we bought all the houses that there are. We've just bought them all. Like, I don't know. Like,
that's how I feel about land right now. I feel like nobody can send me a land deal I haven't seen already. I'm like,
yeah.
I know what that one's going for. I know where this is. It's funny.
Yeah. I'm like, well, geez, we've texted everybody. Like,
hey, so what are you doing now, man? What's your main business? What kind of assets are you going after? It sounds like you're doing some coaching. You have some programs. Is it a Dispo coaching program? I don't know exactly what you're.
So back then it was like the upside down, the exact opposite of where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
So we could walk down the road because we were in the middle of an incredible recession, and you could pick up 5 houses in a day if you wanted, but there was no buyers, right? So we had to get really good at doing Dispo. Like we had to get creative and have a system and like really hammer it out. Mm-hmm. And also I told you we were coming up here to do multifamilies. Little side note, you know who's not lending money in the middle of a recession when they're taking back 500 houses a week? Banks. So that's why we didn't continue with that. And we're like, okay, well, we're going to wholesale. So again, like, let's try this bandit sign thing. And like, we like, now I figured out not to overdo the signs, but we went out and like, we were very consistent, 100 signs.
Just dust them here and there.
Yeah.
Not 25 in a corner.
yeah, dude, that was so stupid. But anyway, so we got really good at doing wholesale. We did almost 40 deals in those first 6 months. We did a lot because it was 3 of us. This is all that we did. My brother did acquisitions. I was doing Dispo. My wife is doing all the direct mail. Both of us are driving around all day long. All of us, doing driving for dollars. So we're searching out, boarded up houses. I mean, we're just all day long. It's the only thing that we did. And we were
just mining, just deal mining.
Yeah, man. And
yeah.
If you're going to be successful, and a lot of people are like, what does it take to be successful? And you got to be single-minded about making this work. If you're going to, I'm not saying you can't do it part-time. You can do one deal every couple months, but I mean, if you're going to do it full-time and be at scale, it's got to be, the only thing more important has got to be like your kids and God. Like that's it. If sitting on the sofa watching Netflix all day is important to you, you're probably not going to get this off the ground. But so we got.
I saw the news this morning. It said like Netflix stock drops like 35%, and I remember thinking to myself for a second, like I didn't even know Netflix was still around.
Oh really? I do.
I'm not a TV watcher, man. I never watch TV. Yeah, I don't know what's on there.
First thing I thought is it's a good time to buy because they're a blue chip stock. They're going to be around forever. But so we're doing a bunch of marketing, right? And so we're getting deals in. And again, remember, like we wanted to buy properties, but banks were not lending. And of course, I had no job, right? So I had no income, verifiable income.
Had to get creative and getting rid of them.
Yeah. So I got really good at doing creative deals and buying properties with owner financing. So we have like a $5-6 million portfolio of properties. And almost every single one was bought with the owner financing 100% of the purchase price.
You only hold houses?
Yeah, I've got some small apartments and duplexes and stuff like that. A little bit of land, some lots and stuff.
Okay.
But in fact, one of my lots the other day I bought for $15,000 on owner financing, nothing down because it was part of a package, and somebody offered me $100,000 for it. I'm like, nah, I'm good. It's only one I can buy
for a little while.
Yeah, what am I gonna do with the $100,000? Pay taxes on it. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
man. I think there's a lot of cool assets out there to hold. I've been doing a lot of land, which I'm always gonna do, but I'm really interested in commercial now, man. Really interested in commercial. Yeah. Kind of curious what's going on over there. I've never looked at too many houses, but I guess I'm gonna go ahead and start paying attention to that stuff. So when I find somebody like yourself, whoever you're the dispo master, then I'm just real curious to see like how your system operates, what it's capable of. So that way, every time I come across a house, kind of just have like a offtake partner for it.
Yeah, we do a ton of JV deals because we're so good at doing Dispo. And
how does it work?
What's that?
Like, how would I send you a deal? Is it like a portal or like an interface or something, and I submit it to you?
Usually, people will just message me, and I'll give them my email.
Okay.
So I'm super easy to find. Facebook, and I'm pretty maxed out on Facebook, so I always tell people to.
Yeah, how can people find you? Where are you at? What are your social channels?
Everything is David Olds REI on all of them.
David Old, if you're listening to this on the podcast and not watching the video, it's David Olds, DAVIDOLDS REI on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Everything.
Yeah, man.
All of them.
So Can you tell us a little bit about your dispo process, or how does it work, or is that the secret sauce, or what?
Yeah, no, we can talk about it all day, man. So here's what happened. So we for a long time it was just me and the company, and I had a couple people that had come in like as a partner for a year or two, and because we've been doing it for 13 years now, whatever it is. And anyways, so when we started to scale out, decided to go into multiple markets, and it was going to be more than just me doing the dispo. And I hired one girl, and then I hired two more, and we started growing out a dispo team. So here's what happened. Like, I'm really good at it. I just am. I don't know. At the time, I didn't know why, right? Because I'm probably, as weird as it sounds, I'm an incredibly introverted person, but like, and most salespeople really are. But anyway, so I could talk to people, and I was just naturally good at it. But so we started hiring people, and they're working these deals, and we'd have these meetings, and I'm like, okay, well, what did we do? Okay, I did this, and I did this, and this girl did this, and this one did this, and this. And I'm like, ladies, we're supposed to be doing 10 things, and we're doing 6. And you know what? We're not even doing the same 6 across the board. We're all over the freaking map. What are we doing? They're like, well, this is what I thought you wanted us to do. So what I realized is, because it's very clear in my brain, and I'm just unconsciously competent, and I can do it, like training them, I needed to come up with a better system. So that was the very start of kind of building out this dispo process for our own people. So we started some training, and it's evolved so much, like over the years. It really literally just started out as a Google Drive, not even a document, like 1A, 2, kind of the steps, and we just kept building it out, so that we could train them and they could understand like what the flow is, just kind of all of the things that go into dispo. So the way Easy REI came about is we got really good at dispoing a lot of deals every year, and we told people, hey, we'll JV with you, which great, right? Like everybody JVs. There's nothing unique about that. But typically with a JV, you'll get somebody who'll do 1, maybe 2 deals with you, and then they bounce because they want to do it themselves and get all the money, which is cool, right? I tell people, I'm a short-term solution. You should build your own dispo department.
That's my philosophy. Yeah, if they don't want to hang around and do deals with me, like, that's fine. Yeah, man. I'll do my own deals. Yeah, but I like partnering up with people. I do it a lot.
Right. So I'm cool. We survive off of our own deals. We're doing fine. But yeah, if I can pick up 2 to 3, 4 extra deals a month, great. So we had these 2 or 3 guys that just continuously kept bringing us deals, and like I would talk to them like, hey man, like I'm cool. Like I love doing your deals, man, but how come you just keep using us and don't develop your own thing? Oh man, I really love it because you guys handle everything, the closings, the whole thing. I'm like, oh, okay. Because really, if you're actively wholesaling, your business really has 3 parts. Kind of 4 if you count marketing, but let's put that marketing and acquisitions, dispositions, and then you've got to close your deal. There's transaction coordinating, and that really takes up a bunch of time. So what was happening is we were finding that people loved that we did all on a JV deal, that we handled the transactions for them. So I'm like, okay, and like any idea, there's a ton of little seeds, right? And that was just one of them. So then, because we're doing a lot of deals here, I've got two transaction coordinators and a bookkeeper in there, and I'd get people would ask me, hey, can you help us? Can you help with transactions and stuff? I'm like, yeah, kind of. So that just sort of evolved into the back of my head, like, geez, why don't we just start like a transactions company, and we'll just do transaction coordinating for people. And then COVID hit, and the world kind of came to an end for 3 weeks. And as we were coming out of that, we had some office space here, and I'm like, we need to expand and grow, and like you're going to start a CRM, right? Like we're all trying to do some things. I'm like, you know what? There's nobody serving that niche for wholesalers nationwide. And what do we know about wholesalers? We're all entrepreneurs. We're generally really talky, sons of guns. We never shut up. Like, right? Like we all want to be out making deals, right? That's what we want to be doing. That's what's exciting for us, right? Like we're talking to sellers and cutting a deal, and talking to buyers and cutting a deal.
The hunt. Yeah.
But that personality type, what are they terrible at? Paperwork, right?
Yeah.
Terrible at paperwork. And if you're a new wholesaler and you're trying to get up and running, and you're doing 2 to 3 deals a month, and you really want to be doing 5, but you're spending a third of your time fighting through dealing with a title company, right?
Yes, Louis M, we are live.
Oh, we're live. Yeah.
I agree, man. Yeah, that's something that I really dislike. I'm good. I'll actually close the deals for people. If they're in our network, they say, "Hey, I got somebody on the phone."
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, give me that phone. I'll close it. Especially if it's a larger acreage deal, I'll take those all day.
Nice.
I do not love the dispo side. I don't want anybody to text me and ask me where's the signature. You guys missed something. So it sounds like, do you have a dual business model? So you'll handle the dispo and all the back end?
Yeah. Well, on our JV deals, we'll just NPL, my company, Nationwide Property, we'll just handle everything. The Easy REI Closings is a standalone company that we have that works as a transaction coordinator for wholesalers, investors, guys doing subject to novations, creative deal. We can handle all of that for you. So, because what happens is, again, like, it's the last thing you want to do when you sit down at your desk or at your computer, right?
Me, I would just rather just give away a piece of the deal to just let somebody else do it.
Yeah, and it's not even a piece of the deal. We're stupid cheap what we've been able to get it down to. But new people that, again, you're trying to scale up and you're getting an email. We call it like abstractor language, that some title agent just cuts and pastes from an attorney. And you look at it and you're like, I don't even know what these words are. These words even English? Monument of title. I can't tell you the first time I had to look that up because I'm like, I don't even know what that is. What's abstracting? What is, what's an affidavit of heirship? What are all of these things?
You got to go to the law library, or you got to call your mentor.
Dude, I'm good at this, and I've spent a lot of time on Google trying to figure stuff out. And honestly, it drives me crazy. So how many wholesalers, when someone says, "Oh, you're going to have to do probate," they're like, "Oh, this deal's dead." Well, do you really need to do probate? I bet you in almost every state you really don't have to. We can find another way to do that. So our goal in Easy, we have one goal: help you do more deals, right? Like, we want to be an extension of you. You're our client. We want you to be able to do more deals. And how do we do that? We take the nonsense off your plate, right? Because it's the thing you don't want, most people. Yeah. It's the thing, like, I don't want to be in the short sale business. I hated that, even the thought of sitting on the phone with the bank all day, and what I equated to is, like, I remember when I was a kid, right? I was 7, 8 years old, 10 years old, and I had chores. I remember this forever. I had 7 trash cans in my house, and this was my Saturday morning chore. My parents were like, you got to empty all the trash, wash the cans, put new bags in it. A job that would take any adult 30 minutes to do, right? I would drag that thing out to be 4 hours. I'm sitting in my bedroom, kicking my legs on the bed. I'm sitting in the bathroom. I'm 10, so I'm only sitting in the bathroom. And, like, I would literally drag that out as long as possible, right? That's the same way people treat their transactions, right?
Yeah.
And not only just not wanting to do it, but sometimes they don't understand, right? They don't know all the things that are involved. So, the way that we work is, man, you get a contract with your seller, you just upload it to us, we'll take care of it. I'll call the seller, I'll get the seller docs, I'll get the will, we'll get the, the death certificates, we'll do all that stuff. You just upload me the contract, go sell it. Go get your buyer, right? You get your buyer, upload that contract, I'll call Bob the builder and say, hey, Bob, how you titling this thing? Oh, it looks like it's in your LLC, I need your corporate docs, I need your articles of organization. I'll use hard money. Who's your hard money guy? I got to call him and get the terms so I can get it over to the title company, right? So we're going to do all those things so that you don't get stuck in that quicksand, right? Mm-hmm. So you get your deal, now go sell another one, go buy another one, go do that, and we'll keep the back end of your business running.
How does this work, man? So is it like a pay per? Is it a service, like a subscription, or do you just pay per transaction?
Yeah, it's we have three levels, so you can submit anywhere from 1 to 5 contracts a month. 1 to 5 contracts a month, it's $1,250. Okay. Right. So less than $15,000 a year. You cannot anywhere. You can't hire a transaction coordinator for under $30,000. Right.
Yeah, I think I would like to touch on that real quick.
Sure.
That can consume a large portion of your day. It can affect your business because you're not doing those activities that that make you money. So, like, for mine, like me personally, I shouldn't be taking phone calls right now, but I'm learning how to do these large scale land deals. Yeah. So I like being on the front end of the phone. I like to meet those people personally. But if you have an activity that you can and need to get rid of, I would say transaction coordinator is where you can get stuck in the mud when you should be using that time and energy to get more, focus on getting new business and keeping everybody moving. So yeah, man, I commend what you're doing. I think it's super powerful, and I think at the price point that I bet you're going to offer it at is amazing. Yeah, it's worth every cent.
So here's what we teach people too. I'll say, Anthony, you're wholesaling these deals. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you how to put a clause in your contract or your assignment with your end buyer that's going to get him to pay you, or to pay an administrative fee. right?
So
So
you tack your fee onto their side.
no, our fee is just the $12.50 a month, right?
Okay.
If you're 1 to 5 contracts, 2,500, 6 to 10, 32.50 if you're 10 plus, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we're stupid cheap. We're like less than $200 a contract.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Nobody's
if you're doing deals, that's nothing.
No.
Yeah.
You're closing a $10,000 deal, and so you jerking around with that paperwork's keeping you from doing 2 extra deals a month.
So if somebody's stuck in their business right now and you're still doing your own transaction coordinating, $200, and you can free yourself of that. So anybody that watches this video, I'm gonna be watching for you guys now.
So here's what we teach people: hey, put a $200 admin fee in your contract. $500, $600. I've seen
it's worth it, man. They don't want to do that.
I've seen it go as high as $950. That's the highest I've seen a wholesaler be able to sneak into their buying contract. But you know what? Open Doors, Zillow, when they were buying houses, realtors, everybody in the world has a $1,500, $1,400, $2,000 administrative fee tacked into their deal.
Dude, I'll tell you what. I've been loving working with agents right now, man. Yeah. I love working with them because they'll drop all the paperwork, they'll make the edits, hit you with DocuSign, submit it, print it, run an envelope across town. I'm like, man, those people work hard for their money. Yeah, I love agents.
And our girls work really hard for what they get. That's dope. I mean, take all that off your plate, but we'll show you how that, if you were to do 5 deals a month, that you put a $600 admin fee in there, you're increasing your bottom line by $3,000 a month. You're paying me $1,250. I don't know how to make it a better deal than that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, that hardly covers your labor. So that's what I'm saying. So what you would save by not using those services, that's huge. So now, that could be huge for your business.
Yeah. Now take that $30,000 that you're going to pay a transaction coordinator, put that into your marketing, and see what it does for your business.
Oof. Yeah, $30,000 of marketing. Yeah. That make anybody's company run a little better.
Sure, right? So some people are like, well, I'll still do the $595 and I'll just hire my own person and it'll pay for them. Well, sure. Listen, man, you can change your own oil too. But who wants to do that, right? Because you still got to hire, train, and manage the person, right? And that's a time suck. Your time is better spent someplace else. All we do is we do personality testing. We hire the right type of people who love to deal with paperwork, who love to sit in front of the computer, I don't love it. I'm telling you, I go in there a couple times a day I answer questions for them, but I don't love being in there. But these people that we hire, they're people that are used to being on the phone all day and entering. Like, the best people for us are like people that have done medical billing. Holy smokes, those are the most detailed people you've ever seen in the world, right? So hire our team who is experienced, detailed. I mean, they are literally experts. This is the only thing that they do all day long.
So important, especially if you are, just getting started. I think the way you start is the way you're going to finish. So if you're just getting started, having those clean books, having somebody on the back end that's making sure that you didn't, get overcharged $30 or $281. That's a lot of responsibility that's coming right off your plate, when you use a service like that. So that's interesting. I've always told myself, that magic lie is that you don't need it. And then now, as busy as I'm getting, I'm like, man, that's like something you can't live without. And same, say what you will, but just it relieves one whole level of stress. And also the time saved I think it's nuts.
And it's tough, right? Yeah. Like, we're entrepreneurs, and listen, I struggle with this too. I'm very difficult with the letting go of like certain things in my business. For a long time, like, I'm really great at marketing and doing websites and building out like our website listings and stuff. I'm not the tech guy, but like, nobody can do it as good as me. I hired a college
Everybody
girl
thinks that
who blows away everything that I was doing. She puts it in there. It's got emojis. It's got all this stuff. I'm like, all right. I go in, I tweak 1 or 2 things, and out it goes. And now I'm freed up. Because honestly, I thought I was the most important person in my company. I'm the person who slows shit down the most. Like, right? I am the clog in the wheel, not the cog in the wheel. There are people that can do things so much better than you. Focus on the things running your business. That's how you scale up. If you think calling the title company to handle this is the best use of your time, it's just not, man. And, so you're not old enough to remember the old commercials, the hair club for men, it's for the bald guys, right?
I think I remember those. Yeah.
The hair, do you? You don't look that old. But kind of at the end, it was this guy. He's like, hey, my name's Steve or whatever. And not only am I the owner, but I'm a client.
Yep,
right?
I remember that. Yeah.
So okay, so that's the way we designed Easy, right? My company was the first client, and I'm a MFer to deal with, right? Like it's got to
build
be
it for
perfect.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So I built it like for us to handle we've stress tested it against some of the biggest wholesalers in the country. We handle like all the guys who are doing, $4 or $5 million a year. So
Nice.
if you want to be like those guys, like those guys realized a long time ago to outsource the simple stuff, the stuff that just.
Okay, so you can handle volume, no problem.
Oh, dude, we got like 107 open files for next week.
Damn.
No, dude, we're hiring 4 more people right now.
That's amazing.
I spent my last 2 days interviewing. We're gonna have to move them to a bigger office probably in the next couple months.
Man, congrats, man. I think when somebody builds something like that, people might view it as us and them. But when somebody builds a machine like that, everybody can use that. That's
man, it's like you guys with HiveMind, dude. I love it.
Yeah.
I was watching your demos today. We're probably gonna make the switch here really quick.
Yeah, I think it's cool. The community is probably the main thing that I love is the people that are coming here. It's we have a bunch of all-stars. We have a bunch of people, that we actually love and care about, and we see them often. We speak to them often. So the community is a real community.
Yeah.
We know these people. We've known them for over a year now.
I just want to join so I can come hang out at the house, man.
So we can make a rap video.
Oh, dude, I saw that. Yeah. Well, I'm like a fat white guy. You don't want me rapping, but I just want to be able to hang out.
No, man. Yeah, come by. Yeah, I think especially an in-person mastermind, something kind of happens, right? When you're around a bunch of electricity and people doing things, so you become like the person next to you. So I tried to create an environment where not only can we meet like this, but also where you can actually come to a physical location.
I love that.
And there's people there helping each other. Hey, can you run these comps? Hey, the lady call you back. What's she saying? It's just like you can feel the electricity in the room,
I love it, man.
Yeah.
So we were trying to create that here. So we used, as we were scaling up, of course, we went from one office in our old building. We had one office, and then we bought the office. We rented the office next door, and we had a door between them. And then we outgrew that. So I guess, what are we in, 2020? When did the world end? End of 2019, I guess. We started looking around for another office, and we found this place where we're at now. It's like 6,000 square foot. We have the whole upstairs of this big building. And it was really more space than we needed. So it has probably like a 1,800 square foot office in the front that's really nice. And we thought, we'd like to create something like you've got there, right? Maybe like a WeWork space or communal workspace. It'll be really cool. We'll get a bunch of investors in here. Maybe we'll go help them 1 or 2 days a week. Was it 2020? Yeah. And so this was just before that. So we're like, we're going to have this awesome space. And I bought $6-7 grand worth of desks and chairs. And we're going to rent these 10 desks out for $200 a month. It was going to be awesome. And then COVID happens. And you know how many people in the middle of COVID or when it's starting want to do a shared workspace?
It was you and your business partner?
0 is the number. So for 2 years, every so often we get somebody we knew that's like, hey, can I use the desk for a little bit? I'm like, absolutely. But we'd go over there to take calls and just write on the whiteboard. But nobody ever used it for anything. So when I got we should open this company, I'm like, I got the perfect spot for it. And now they're outgrowing that office. We're gonna have to move them into probably switch our conference room, which is about 2,500 square foot, move them over there and kick the conference room back or just shut the conference room down. So
hey, where are you based out of?
We're in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So do you know where that is? Nobody ever knows where that is.
I've heard of Chattanooga. I don't think I know where it's at geographically, but
we're exactly 2 hours north of Atlanta.
Atlanta.
We're the first. No, north of Atlanta. Yeah, we're the first city as you come into Tennessee.
I think there's a YouTuber that I've been following for a while, and he's big time commercial guy. I think out of Nashville, so that's why I've kind of just been thinking about that market a little bit.
So the way I had somebody message me earlier, and he's like, "Hey, you're in Tennessee, right? Yeah. Do you do deals in Memphis?" I'm like, "Dude, Memphis is like you guys going to what's on the far corner." I just had it in my head. It's 6 hours away, man. That's another world going all the way out there.
Memphis is by I forget.
Memphis is the other side. We're on the east side of the southeast side of the state. So it's sort of like Knoxville, Chattanooga, Nashville, Memphis, and there's no straight line between any of them. You kind of gotta zigzag.
You gotta cut to the mountains.
Yeah, it's for real 6 hours to drive from here to Memphis. It's a long ways away. But yeah, it's like driving from one side of Texas to the other. Takes forever. Nothing to see in the middle.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What is a quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with?
Simplicity is scalable.
Simplicity is scalable. That's a good one.
That's a great one, man. And the other one is, if you do the thing works. We say that all the time. We have a process, right? We have a system. If you do the system works. I promise you it works. I've done 1,500 deals. If you do the things that we're telling you to do, it works. It works. Like, it's not a question. Like, the system works. That's why we have this Dispo course and all that stuff. But like, it works. We tell our own people that, when something isn't selling, and I look back and, oh, well, you didn't make the calls, you didn't send the text, you didn't do the post, you didn't do the things,
Well, what I really wanted to mention earlier is that you're like the accidental investor.
Kind of. I mean, like, I kind of wanted to be in real estate. But yeah, I mean, I sort of kind of I guess so. Kind of backed into it. Like, everything I wanted to do, like, at the time we couldn't do it. Right. I wanted to wholesale, didn't work. I wanted to come up here and buy, multifamilies, couldn't do it. So, the thing about me that I tell people, like I followed direction really good, and we were too dumb to quit. Like, that's it. Like, we fought through. Anybody, you guys that are listening, that you're just starting your company, or you're a year or two in, like, you're going to face incredible adversity. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've laid
don't say.
What? What? Like, I've laid in bed so many times and sat up and punched notes into my phone. Like, I've come up with the greatest idea ever. We're going to change the world. Order the jet now. We're going to be rich. Like, this is it. This is the plan. We're going to be rich. It's going to be perfect. And then after you test it a little bit, you're like, well, that didn't work. Like, one part of it worked. We're going to keep that, and we're going to adjust and keep moving forward. And we call it, like, it's a whiteboard graveyard. I love writing on whiteboards. That's just, my mind works. Like, I have to write it up there to look at it, and everything's very linear. So from the time we started going nationwide, we've got all these whiteboards where you take a picture of it when you're done so you can erase your whiteboard. And it's like all the business plans that we've had mapped out over the years of how this is going to work. And we're going to be on the JV system, and we're going to be in 10 markets doing 8 deals a month. And it's going to be crazy, right? And you just realize over time, oh, that didn't work. Well, let's fix it, right? You never quit. Like, quit's not the option. That's dumb, right? But what worked and what didn't work, what did we learn from it? How do we move forward, right?
Hey, I was gonna just mention real quick, man. Is I gotta run. I don't know. Are you guys gonna keep on rolling? Or did you got it today,
good, man? We covered everything.
Yeah, really. Can we do it? Can we book you for a demo for the weekly Hive call so you can show us how
man,
your
let's do a
transaction
demo
coordinator works?
And then, like, because I told Daniel, man, I stiffed you at the last minute before. So, dude, if you want to go 5 hours, we'll go 5 hours. Because I think I bought him drinks and stuff down there because I was feeling so bad. But yeah, man, you want to come on and do like a deep dispo dive where you don't got to do all the background shit on me? I mean, we got plenty of things that we can talk about that I can help people with.
Yeah, I was gonna say we have a Monday and a Thursday call every week, and it's just like kind of like a town hall meeting for the Hive Mind. But if you can come on and show us what you're doing and how it works, man. Yeah, if there's value, we know. Well, first we make sure that it's an honorable, reputable person. We've seen you around enough. So yeah, man, we would love for you to come on and show us what you got. Because, like, I'm telling everybody again, if you're watching this and you're not using a transaction coordinator and you're doing it yourself, you're in big trouble. So the way that I do it is I partner with some of my Hive people, and that's how I've been able to leverage partnerships. So I don't have to participate there. But if you are doing it yourself, you're in really big trouble. So you need to go to this link below right here. It's www.easyreiclosings.com, and give David Olds a call and let him know that you would like him to help you go faster in your business.
Yeah, the Hive sent you.
The what?
And the Hive sent you.
That's right. Yeah, let's definitely look at our calendars and let's get something planned. I'm going back out of the country next week, but when I come back, let's definitely do it. What I'll do is I'll get on and I'll hype them up, and then I'll put the brains of my operations manager on, and she can actually show you the portal and how it all works. And it's, I mean, again, it's built for you, the client, to have ease of mind knowing that your deals are moving forward. and again,
so important, especially in the beginning, man, when you're struggling to catch momentum. So important.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, man, I'd love to do that. I'd be honored to come on and talk to everybody that we might be able to help, and definitely add some value to you guys.
Dude, well, thank you for giving us 60 minutes of your life, man. We really love that and appreciate that so much.
All right, awesome. You guys have a great day.
You too, brother. Thank you.